Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke gives her daughter a harsh dose of reality as Carter is forced to choose between Hope and the Forresters. This week on Bold and Beautiful, Carter has to make tough decisions between his business and his love. In addition, Daphne tries to prevent Carter from finding out, while Luna is back to her stalker ways. Carter was so ashamed of what he had done that he destroyed the LLC and gave Forrester back to Ridge, Eric, and Steffi. Steffi requested to her family that Hope be expelled from the company, thus Carter was forced to face the consequences with Hope. Hope and her line were out, and Steffi got what she wanted. Carter found himself in a difficult situation, though, when he and Brooke were permitted to remain. Hope approaches Carter and says, "We're a team. Don't allow them to separate us." Will Carter decide to remain at Forrester or depart with Hope? Daphne played a crucial role in persuading Carter that by betraying Ridge, he had changed into someone he was not. She ate away at him little by little. But in the process, Daphne fell in love with Carter, and maybe he feels the same way about her. Next week, Steffi responds to Daphne's statement that Carter, he can never know about our plan. "You have really fallen for the guy, haven't you?" Steffi asks. Brooke astonishes Hope. Brooke finally offers her a wake-up call after becoming appalled by her daughter's behavior. "Until you accept responsibility, I have no sympathy for you," Brooke tells a weeping Hope. In The Bold and the Beautiful, Carter Walton is forced to make a difficult decision between his blossoming bond with Hope Logan and his allegiance to the Forrester family. With Hope's job at Forrester Creations on the line, this complicated situation develops as internal conflicts reach a breaking point. Carter, a vital member of the Forrester empire and a longtime confidant, struggles to balance his affections for Hope with his professional responsibilities. Steffi and Ridge, the Forresters' leaders, put tremendous pressure on Carter to adopt their business plan, which marginalizes Hope and her Hope for the Future line. Steffi, in particular, is determined to consolidate authority and make sure the business goes in a direction that puts innovation and profitability ahead of emotion. Carter is left with little choice but to face the moral and psychological ramifications of his choices as a result of her threats and cunning tactics. Hope, on the other hand, speaks to Carter's sense of justice and fairness because she has always been a symbol of compassion and inventiveness within the organization. She contends that her vision is in line with Forrester Creations' basic principles and that her contributions to the organization are priceless. Carter must balance his allegiance to the Forresters against his developing respect for Hope and her steadfast adherence to her values as he struggles with this tough decision. When Brooke Logan intervenes to give her daughter a stern reality check, the tension is further increased. Ever the protective mother, Brooke understands how vulnerable Hope is and encourages her to confront the hard realities of the business world. In a direct and passionate exchange, Brooke cautions Hope that her idealism might not be sufficient to guarantee her position inside the organization and that the Forresters will always put their own interests first. In addition to reflecting her own experiences, Brooke's tough love style is a last-ditch effort to get Hope ready for what lies ahead. She stresses the value of adaptability and resilience, and she exhorts Hope to think of other options in the event that her attempts to make amends with the Forresters are unsuccessful. As Brooke delivers her hard realities with a mixture of love, exasperation, and dread for Hope's future, this crucial moment between mother and daughter demonstrates the complexity of their relationship. As the plot develops, Carter's internal conflict becomes more and more obvious, as evidenced by his interactions with Hope and the Forresters. His discussions with Hope are characterized by warmth and respect for one another, underscoring their sincere bond. On the other hand, as he strikes a careful balance between devotion and honesty, his interactions with Steffi and Ridge are characterized by tension and uneasiness. The authors deftly examine themes of ambition, loyalty, and the ethical challenges of business life through Carter's predicament. Hope's personal development is accelerated by Brooke's severe dose of reality, which forces her to face the limits of her idealism and think about alternative options for the future. As each character is compelled to face their own motivations and the repercussions of their actions, the plot is full of dramatic intensity and emotional depth. The actors give subtle depictions that convey the emotional complexity of their characters, and the performances are consistently great. As the characters deal with the consequences of Carter's choice and Hope's changing viewpoint, the stage is set for even bigger conflicts and changes at the end of this compelling arc. This plotline is a highlight of The Bold and the Beautiful, providing viewers with an insightful examination of ambition, loyalty, and the enduring strength of familial ties through its gripping storytelling, complex character interactions, and high-stakes drama. As a mother-daughter argument breaks out, does Hope leave Brooke's property? Will Hope Logan leave the cabin when a mother-daughter conflict breaks out? The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers suggest that Hope Logan may leave Brooke Logan's home. Fans of B&B will remember that despite pressure from Ridge Forrester, Brooke refused to exclude Hope. That was a major factor in Ridge and Brooke's relationship disintegrating since he believed she ought to oppose her daughter. Brooke won't have much sympathy during the week of March 24th to 28th, even though she wasn't hoping Hope would lose her job or have her line cut. Brooke won't be empathetic because Hope won't accept responsibility for her part in the Forrester chaos. Brooke refuses to console Hope and give her the information she desires, even when Hope and Carter Walton's relationship ends. Instead, Brooke will show us some rough love, which will enrage Hope. When it appears like Brooke is supporting Steffi and the Forresters above her own family, Hope will be horrified. Hope feels that Brooke ought to be on her side, but she won't receive the help she needs. Could this be sufficient to alter Hope's living situation, given the impending dramatic confrontation between Brooke and Hope? Brooke might still be reluctant to fire Hope because doing so would also require firing Beth Spencer. But since Beth will feel so betrayed, Hope might decide it's time to go away and pack up Beth. Given the situation, it's simple to picture Hope declaring that she is no longer able to reside on Brooke's land. If Hope moves out, that information might make it easier for Brooke and Ridge to get back together. Would Ridge be able to reclaim his ex now that Brooke is no longer the CEO and Hope might be living somewhere else? We all know that Ridge's heart may be erratic, but he is currently dedicated to Taylor Hayes. Ridge might be persuaded to return to Brooke's house and resume their relationship. Seeing Brooke turn against Hope might make a difference, particularly if Hope leaves as Ridge has always desired. According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope will need to update her life and make some predictions about what will happen in her next chapter. Is pride the reason behind Hope's startling decision to leave Forrester and Carter? Updates and spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful hint that if Hope Logan decides to put her pride first, she may think about leaving Forrester and Carter Walton. Let's examine the possible ramifications for her future path as she draws closer to a significant turning point in her life. Carter receives a heartfelt. Hope is going to react strongly to Carter's decision to finally give the Forresters back control. Given that he urged Ridge Forrester and Eric Forrester to keep her line, he will try to convince her to agree with his decision. However, B&B spoilers suggest that Hope expects Steffi Forrester to oppose this. Even if Hope for the future goes on, it will probably result in more Steffi controlling Hope, which is the last thing she wants after feeling independent with Carter. Hope has already told Carter that she can't go back to being Steffi's servant, so will she stick to her guns? Is that what Hope actually means? Hope may eventually decide to leave Forrester Creations and go it alone if she really thinks that. She has probably become tired of the constant disputes around Hope for the future by this point. It could be time for her to give up on that goal and look for a new chance elsewhere. Additionally, since Hope and Carter's ambitious intentions are failing, Hope may also choose to break up with Carter. Hope has many good reasons to fire Carter because of his dubious behavior with Daphne Rose and his choice to give up Forrester's power. Hope and Carter's relationship may come to an end as a result. It's inevitable that Hope and Steffi will clash once more in the near future. Hope will shortly face Steffi once more, which will probably bring back memories of her long-standing contempt for her opponent. Hope may begin to imagine a different course for herself, one that does not involve Carter or Forrester Creations, if she decides she can no longer stand this. According to recent teasers, Hope might opt to let Carter go and embrace a new beginning, or she might give him bombshell news that might completely transform her life. When Carter decided to terminate their contract in favor of his long-standing connection with Ridge, it's obvious that she felt ignored. It's time for Steffi to move on from their rivalry, which dates back to their adolescence and has included both romantic and professional issues. Hope and Brooke engage in a serious argument. According to spoilers on The Bold and the Beautiful, this was eventually going to happen. Hope and Brooke appear to be on the verge of a heated argument. For all the information you require, continue reading below. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope and Brooke engage in a serious argument. According to the most recent BMB spoilers, Brooke will accuse her daughter Hope of being irresponsible and causing the chaos at Forrester Creations, which will affect everyone. Even worse, Hope will be appalled to learn that her own mother has been supporting Steffi Forrester and has decided to stop producing the Hope for the Future line. Consequently, Hope will be leaving the cabin. She no longer wishes to reside at her mother's home, much less be close to her. Hope is completely finished. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, what will happen to Hope and Brooke next? According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, the battle between the Logans and the Forresters is going to be the worst anyone has ever witnessed. This is because Brooke will find it extremely difficult to forgive her daughter for her actions. Hope also finds it incomprehensible that her mother would turn on her. She has always supported her. Well, until now, she has always had her back. Hope believes she is being duped into thinking she did something wrong, and she will not tolerate it. Let's just say that the drama between Brooke and Hope will be so intense that Steffi, who rarely feels sorry for her adversary, will end herself feeling the same way. Keep an eye on this area. Hope's heartache, Steffi's discovery, and Luna's audacious action. According to spoilers for the week of March 24th to 28th on The Bold and the Beautiful, Steffi Forrester will discover something, and Luna Nozawa will take a risk. There will be a lot of action on the CBS soap opera, so I hope Logan experiences some heartbreak as well. First and foremost, Carter Walton will have to decide between a career at Forrester and one with Hope. Carter appears positioned to choose his position at the company over his romance because it doesn't seem like he can have both. Now that Steffi has put her line on hold once more, Hope anticipated that Carter would support her and depart from Forrester Creations. Hope had hoped that Carter would stick by her side, but it looks like he will let her down by joining the Forresters. Naturally, it's difficult to think Hope and Carter's love could withstand such a hit. When Carter leaves her alone, Hope can express that she is done with him. Hope will likely reflect on her sadness and vent to Brooke Logan when she is unmarried. But because Hope isn't taking responsibility for her errors, Brooke won't react sympathetically. Brooke will point the finger at Hope, thereby implying that her daughter's misery is her own responsibility. Hope, however, will feel as though Carter let her down after promising her everything. Hope will be disappointed even though she expected Carter to be different from the other guys who failed her. She'll be dealing with some worry over the secret she's holding from Carter over with Daphne Rose. Daphne persuaded Carter to adopt the Forresters' point of view after Steffi enlisted her in a plot to retake Forrester control. In order to prevent him from approving if he knew Daphne had an ulterior motive from the beginning, Steffi also told Daphne to stand between Carter and Hope. Daphne will do everything in her power to conceal the truth now that she has grown to love Carter. Steffi promises to keep Carter in the dark after speaking with a trembling Daphne and learning how deeply her hidden ally has fallen. Deacon Sharp will receive updates on some startling news in the interim. According to BMB teasers, Deacon will need to come to terms with Luna's forgiveness and the reality that she is Sheila Sharp's granddaughter. Deacon ought to be extremely disturbed by Sheila's immediate affection and acceptance of Luna. Despite Deacon's warnings to stay away from Luna, Sheila would nevertheless cling to her cherished grandchild and provide comfort. Deacon will eventually catch up with Hope as well, so he ought to provide her the consolation she needs. After Brooke also betrays Hope, she will need her father more than ever. Now that she's free to pursue Will Spencer, Luna will begin working on a new story. At Il Giardino, Luna will approach Will, engage in some flirtation, and attempt to thank him for the generosity of his family. Luna will use this as an opportunity to convince Will that she owes him something because Bill Spencer has done so much for her. Will undoubtedly remain vigilant at first, but he might come to the conclusion that Luna merits another opportunity. Will might bear in mind that Bill risked a lot for Luna when he negotiated her parole. According to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful, Luna will prophesy that she will have the happy ending she desires, but is disaster in the works instead? The Forrester dynasty, an enabler legacy. The Forrester mansion, a sprawling monument to old Hollywood glamour and generational wealth, had always been Steffi's sanctuary. From the moment she could walk, Eric Forrester's lap had been her throne, Ridge's approval her oxygen, and the family name her shield. Now, as she stormed through the marble foyer, her stiletto heels echoing like gunshots, that shield felt impenetrable. Behind her, Eric and Ridge followed like loyal knights, their faces etched with a mix of pride and concern. They'd just left an emergency board meeting where Steffi, as CEO of Forrester Creations, had unilaterally shut down Hope's Phoenix Rising collaboration, a move that violated contracts, alienated investors, and risked lawsuits. But neither patriarch had intervened. Instead, Eric had patted her shoulder. "You're a Forrester, sweetheart. You do what you think is right," while Ridge muttered vague platitudes about bold leadership. Upstairs, in the sunlit sitting room where portraits of Stephanie Forrester's steel gaze watched over them, Steffi spun to face her grandfather and father, her eyes blazing. "Why is Hope still in the building? I told HR to revoke her access weeks ago." "Now, Steffi, let's not be hasty. Hope's still family, in a way. Her mother and I." Eric sunk into his favorite armchair, the leather creaking under his weight, his voice a calming rumble. He trailed off, the ghost of his decades-long romance with Brooke Logan hanging unspoken between them. "Hope's a problem, Dad. Always has been. But Steffi's right, we can't let her new line undercut Forrester Creations." "Steffi's protecting our legacy," Ridge said, resting against the grand piano. "Exactly. Phoenix Rising is a direct insult to everything we stand for. Hope's using recycled fabrics, undercutting our pricing. It's cheap, it's desperate, and it's making us look outdated," Steffi said and crossed her arms in victory. Both men ignored the hypocrisy, pointing out that Stephanie Forrester would have disapproved of the edgy, fast fashion trends promoted by Steffi's own Steffi streetwear line. Instead, Eric nodded slowly while tapping the armrest with his arthritic fingers, saying, "You've always had a vision, sweetheart. If you say Hope's a threat, we trust you. But maybe cut back on the personal jabs? The media is calling this a catfight, and it's not a good look," Ridge continued. "Since when do Forresters care about looks?" "Grandma Stephanie didn't," sneered Steffi. The situation became tense when the late matriarch of the family, Stephanie Forrester, was brought up. Eric's smile dimmed as he said, "Your grandmother, she was complicated. But she never let sentimentality cloud her judgment. Just like you. I hope it's not just a business threat. She's using Thomas again, playing the victim, stringing him along. He's back to sketching her face in the margins of his designs. It's pathetic." Steffi had heard the same refrain all her life: be like Stephanie. Led like Stephanie. Sacrifice like Stephanie. However, no one had mentioned out loud what Stephanie had sacrificed: marriages, relationships, and the trust of her own children. "I'll talk to Thomas. He needs to focus on the Forrester collections, not Hope's pity projects," Ridge said, clenching his jaw. Thomas, his troublesome son, had always been the family's weak point, and his preoccupation with Hope was a recurrent nightmare. Steffi snapped, "No. You two handle the board. I'll handle Thomas. Make sure they realize this isn't personal, it's survival." Ridge and Eric looked at each other, a secret pact established over decades of family conflicts. They had always defended their own, even when their own were completely incorrect. The effect of ripples, damage to collateral. The knock on the door startled Thomas Forrester, who had expected Steffi, or perhaps Ridge, to be there to lecture him about focus. Instead, Hope stood in the hallway, her eyes swollen from crying, a box of her belongings clutched to her chest. In the dim light of his design studio, a half-empty bottle of bourbon sat on the drafting table, and sketches of Hope's face littered the floor since Steffi had exiled Hope from Forrester Creations. "Hope," Thomas exhaled, reflexively moving aside. "Are you?" "Don't. I just need to get the rest of my files. Then I'm gone. For good." She shoved past him, letting the box fall onto a chaise lounge. Steffi's gone too far. I tried to talk to Dad and Grandpa, but they're so deep in her corner, Thomas said, his guilt still nagging at him. Of course they are. Steffi's their golden child. Always has been. You think they'd ever hold her accountable? Even when she's burning the company down, Hope said with a sour laugh as she yanked open a filing cabinet. As Thomas watched Hope load documents into her bag, he mumbled, they think she's saving it, but this, shutting you out? It's not right. Then do something about it, Thomas. You're a Forrester too. Or does that only matter when Steffi says it does? Hope hesitated, looking at him. Get out, Hope. You're trespassing. The door swung open before he could respond, and Steffi was there, her cold look flitting between them. Or what? You'll call Eric and Ridge to escort me? Your personal bodyguards? Hope asked without flinching. You're jealous. That's what this is. Jealous because for once, the world sees you for what you are, a Logan. A schemer. A knockoff, Steffi said, stepping closer with a low, menacing voice. With his palms up, Thomas stepped between them and said, Steffi, stop. You've been using Thomas since day one, using his ability and heart to support your substandard brand. But guess what? He's a Forrester, and we defend our own. No, you stop. Steffi pushed past him, putting himself in Hope's face. You and Ridge and Eric, you've treated him like a broken toy, something to hide in the attic. Well, I believed in him. And that terrifies you, doesn't it? Because if Thomas thrives without you, your whole Forrester supremacy myth falls apart, Hope said with a chilly laugh. Steffi, what the hell? Thomas sprang to restrain his sister as Steffi's slap reverberated throughout the room, causing Hope to stumble back and grasp her cheek. Steffi growled and wrenched free, saying, Get your hands off me. She rushed out, leaving Thomas and Hope in startled silence. You're just like Dad, weak, easily played by a pretty face. What did you do to her? Ridge yelled at Hope as he stormed into the studio a few minutes later, his face booming. Thomas moved forward and said, Dad, Steffi hit her. Hope didn't. Ridge yelled, I hope you're done here. If I see you around Steffi again, I'll call security myself. I don't want to hear it. Hope turned to Thomas with angry tears in her eyes as Ridge stalked off, saying, Now do you see? Your family's poison. And you're too scared to admit it. A house divided, the blind spot of the enablers. Brooke, who had been invited under the pretense of a family dinner, listened in growing rage as Steffi related her version of events, including Hope's provocation, Thomas's betrayal, and her own restraint. Eric sat at the head of the dining table that evening, the light from the chandelier glinting off the silverware. Brooke angrily slammed her wineglass down on the table and said, You're lying. I hope you wouldn't attack Steffi without cause. And Thomas verified what actually occurred. Thomas is unstable. You know that. He's been obsessed with Hope for years, he'd say anything to defend her, Steffi said with a sly smile. Steffi's the CEO, Brooke. Her word carries weight. Hope's doesn't, Ridge said, nodding while swirling his scotch. Eric, you've known Hope since she was a baby. You know she's not a liar. How can you let Steffi get away with this? Brooke begged, turning to face Eric. Brooke, this family, we've been through so much. Steffi's trying to hold us together. Sometimes that means making hard choices, Eric said, avoiding her eyes and spoke in a tired tone. Hard choices? You're allowing her to intimidate everyone into submission. You're becoming Stephanie, Eric, punishing anyone who dares question a Forrester, Brooke said with a disbelieving laugh. Get out. Now. Steffi stood, her chair squeaking, Eric's face went pale, Stephanie's name was thrown onto the table, and the room stopped. With a shudder, Brooke stood up and said, I'm happy, but take note, this isn't loyalty, it's fear, and it will destroy you all. Granddad, you don't think I'm becoming like Grandma, do you? Cold? Tyrannical? Steffi said, sagging into her chair as she departed, suddenly feeling vulnerable. You're strong, sweetheart. Just like she was. And strength scares people. But it's what this family needs, Eric said softly as he grabbed for her hand. Don't let her get in your head. Brooke is just bitter because hope is failing, Ridge said, nodding. But worry not at Eric as the night went on, and he ventured to the study to look at Stephanie's painting, her painted eyes following him. Am I failing them? He said,